Table Africa. To
My name is Abina Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Bokondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, ooh, talking about culture, yeah, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Roundtable Africa on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jah, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Tonight, we turn our attention on Senegal. Yes, Senegal. And with that, let me welcome the presenter, Mr. Mohamed Sherif, a man I've known for almost 40 years. Mr. Sherif, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. It's great to do this. And I want to thank you for your time. It's happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to all our viewers from across the globe. This is Roundtable Africa. This is the time when we take a moment to talk about other African countries. Sometimes we talk about democracy in that country and all kinds of things. Tonight we're going to be talking about two young leaders. So right now, I can tell you Senegal is facing a major political rupture between the president, Bassirou Faye, and Ousmane Sonko, two former allies whose partnership helped bring the ruling Pastef movement to power in 2024. Their relationship has shifted from a symbolic two friends, one project alliance to a struggle over authority, party control, economic strategy, and the future direction of Senegal. So without going too much into it, let me welcome Mr. Sherif, who's first going to set the stage. Senegal in the World Cup.
Yes, indeed, Dennis.
After the African Cup was yanked from them.
Yeah, I think that's still under appeal. I still entertain the hope that they're still going to be declared the winner of the African Cup of Nations because they won that fair and clear. Now Senegal is in the World Cup. They just qualified yesterday for the second round, the round of 32, after they won just one game. So this is a very lucky country. They lost two out of three. The last game yesterday, I think they beat Iraq by 5-0.
Yeah.
So that would take them to the second round. But tonight we're talking. In fact, I have a slide where the World Cup. I recognize the Senegalese World Cup team, so we'll get to that. But tonight is mostly about Sonko and Diomaye Faye, Ousmane Sonko and Bassirou Diomaye Faye. These are two, as you set the table right there, Dennis, these are two young men who held a lot of promises in Senegalese politics. They won, their party, PASTEF, won the 2024 Senegalese election. Both men were public servants. They work as they work in the tax collection agency or tax experts, something along those lines. This is where their relationship was forged. And both men co-founded the PASTEF political party. They're young men. One of them, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, was born in 1980, before Torbort's death, before the death of my favorite president, as you say, Dennis. One of my favorites Liberian presidents. Faye was born in 1980. Ousmane Sonko was born in 1974, I believe in 1974. Again, both are young, vibrant Senegalese politicians whose desire to take their country in a different direction reached some hiccup recently. And so that's what we're going to discuss. And that hiccup reverberated around the region because this party, PASTEF, held a lot of promises, a lot of hopes, not just for Senegal, but for the region as well. So what happened? What happened? The major incident that happened recently happened on May 22nd, 2026, when Bassirou Diomaye Faye dismissed Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. They are friends. Their friendship is deep. Bassirou Diomaye Faye has even named his son, after one of his sons, after Ousmane Sonko. His one of his daughters, I think his only daughter, is named after Ousmane Sonko's mom. So when that happens in the African society, it means this relationship goes deep, very, very deep. And so I'm here to say that, we usually say, blood is thicker than water. In this case, is politics thicker than blood? That is the question. And it looks like it is, because this political cohabitation, whatever you may call it, wasn't able to stick despite their very close personal relationship. So again, the May 22nd firing of Ousmane Sonko by Prime Minister Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Sonko is a mentor of Faye. Sonko is popular, enormously popular with the Senegalese masses, with the Senegalese youth. In fact, during the election, people were doubtful that they could vote for Faye. So Sonko put them at ease. Sonko said, Diomaye is me. I am Diomaye. Vote for him. Vote for him. Diomaye Mwe Sonko. In Wolof language means, Diomaye is Sonko. He's the same as me. I am the same as he. So vote for him. Voting for him means that you're voting for me. Tremendously popular. They passed their party, won in the first round by 54 to 55% of the popular vote. So Sonko is fired. Sonko, the leader of the PASTEF party since April 2024. So he was appointed prime minister. He is the leader of the party. So that part he didn't relinquish. Very smart of him to hold on to the leadership of the party. He is the leader. He is the founder. They're co-founders, but he is the main man for that political organization. And so after he is fired, the Speaker of the National Assembly, in Senegal is called the President of the National Assembly. So the Speaker of the National Assembly, El Malik Ndiaye, resigned 2 days after Sonko is fired from his position as Prime Minister. Ndiaye makes way for Sonko to come back into Parliament as the parliamentary speaker, as the head of the legislature. On the 26th of May 2026, Ousmane Sonko made a triumphant return to the National Assembly, where he's elected Speaker of the National Assembly. This then set the stage for one of the most interesting political rivalries in Senegalese history, certainly in West African history, because Senegal's next election is in 2029.
And talk a little bit about that assembly, right? How can Dai step down and make way for Sonko? How does that process work?
The process is that the political party that is has the most representatives in parliament is the party that controls parliament. So right now, PASTEF has an overwhelming majority in the Senegalese National Assembly because Sonko is the leader of the party. He is enormously popular. Again, I go back to that. His popularity with the Senegalese masses is just enormous. So El Malik and Jai was waiting. They wanted to make sure that Sonko did not go down this way. That he is dismissed as the prime minister now. He doesn't have the same power that he used to have now. So the party was not going to let that happen. So El Malik and Jai, unselfishly, of course, all of this is working in the background. These are backroom deals. But the fact that El Malik and Jai was able to step down without any qualms, it's enormously significant to Senegalese politics. It speaks to the stability, unselfishness of Senegalese politicians and the stability of Senegalese democracy.
So what is the function of the assembly president? What power now does Sonko have as president of the assembly?
Just like in Liberia, just like in our own setting, right? He is the speaker. He is, besides the president, he is one of the most powerful politicians in Senegal at this time. So if there are two powerful people or three powerful people, Ousmane Sonko is one of them. In fact, many are saying that Ousmane Sonko is more powerful than the president because Ousmane Sonko has the support of a political party of a massive. He has the support of a mass-based political movement, PASTEF, which controls parliament at this time. He also has the support not just of Dakar and other places, but he also has support all across the country, all across the region. Because keep in mind, Ousmane Sonko's party is a Pan-Africanist party, and so Ousmane Sonko is not just a significant political figure in Senegal. He's also very significant across the region. Remember when the coup happened in the alleged coup happened in Guinea-Bissau, and the president Bassirou Diomaye Faye took in the former Guinea-Bissau leader. It was Ousmane Sonko who opposed that. And the next day or 2 days later, Mbalo was on the flight to somewhere else, I think to Morocco. Ousmane Sonko wasn't buying that. He wasn't buying that this was a military coup. He said, "You are coming in here, you stage coup against yourself. For in other words, we don't want you here." And he was gone 2 days later. The same Ousmane Sonko made sure that French military bases in Senegal were closed down. So these are the things that Ousmane Sonko was able to do. He has allied himself with the Sahel states and their foundation and their organization, the Organization of the Sahel States. So he is in many ways on the left flank of Senegalese political ideology or Senegalese political thoughts.
And just looking at the two there, the older guy is Songo and the younger is Faye. And as you said, this is his mentor. I mean, just look at him.
Yeah, we're looking at this guy who's only 51 years old. It's amazing that already he's in Ousmane Sonko. He's one of the most prominent African politicians already at the age of 51. He is enormously popular with the Senegalese people. He's popular with the African youth. So he's going somewhere. He goes somewhere, and he's a tactician. Talk about political tactician. We used to say, Bacchus Matthews is a tactician. This guy is the ultimate tactician in politics. So in many ways, Dennis, his fall from the prime ministerialship, you could say that he telegraphed the whole, situation, and now Bassirou Diomaye Faye looks like the bad guy, and everybody's saying, "But why did he do this?" I mean, dismiss his mentor, but on the day that Ousmane Sonko was fired from this job, his first reaction was, "I am so relieved." That was his first reaction, that he is relieved. So he is a tactician. So in many ways, it is suggested in some quarters that he may have even telegraphed that whole thing. And I'm saying this to say that um, there was, we will get into where these disagreements occur. There were tremendous disagreement on fundamental issues, so they could not agree. And the thing about this, Dennis, is that anytime you have a plan B choice, it's always a problem already. Because of the rotten democracies we have around Africa. If it wasn't so, Usman Sonko was to be the president right now. We won't be talking about this. I won't be sitting here on roundtable talking about this issue because there will be no issues like this. He was the choice of Pastef. He was the choice of the Senegalese people. And so because Macky Sall, the former president, knew that, and Macky Sall was trying to manipulate the constitution, he arrested, Usman Sonko was arrested and incarcerated. And Usman Sonko was barred from participating in the election. And because of that, his friend, Basiru Jomai Faye, who was with him in prison, but who wasn't barred from participating, was the plan B choice. And they took him, they said, you are going to run on this ticket that I was supposed to run on. You are me, I am you. It doesn't matter. You are going to be our leader. And Usman Sonko made sure that happened. So when that happened, there's usually, I saw this coming. Usman Sonko didn't really look comfortable in the number 2 spot. It's hard, Dennis. It's really hard to sit back there and you see that this is the chair that you were supposed to occupy, and now you're seeing this accidental president. What are we going to call him? His excellency or his accidency? So he's an accidental president. It's hard for Usman. It was hard for Usman Sonko to accept that.
Yeah. We've seen this kind of thing before, but we'll get to it, why this happened and what their relationship looked like prior.
And let me talk about, we've seen this before. We've seen this next door in Gambia, where the old man Usanu Dabo in 2016 was arrested by the military dictator Yahya Jammeh. Usanu Dabo went to jail around April of 2016. The election was scheduled for December of 2016. So once Usanu Dabo was barred from the election, Usanu Dabo, the choice of the UDP, opposition UDP party, was Adama Barrow, who was in London. He was a security guard in London, just came in the right place at the right time. So Adama Barrow was then picked. And the plan was Adama Barrow, if he won, he will release Usanu Dabo, and Usanu Dabo will be appointed president. And after 2 years, Adama Barrow would turn over the presidency to Usanu Dabo. All of this happened, right? Adama Barrow won the election. Adama Barrow is released from jail. Adama Barrow is appointed vice president. But the second part, the most important part, didn't happen. The man said, "No, I'm not doing this. I am not doing this." And actually, he did not. And they went for re-election, and Usanu Dabo lost. Although now Usanu Dabo is saying that he's thinking about running again against, Adama Barrow. So these things. So what does that tell you? So, like, if it's in Liberia or any other country, you want to do this Plan B thing, think again, because it doesn't always work.
And many said that was the case of, even though it's being widely disputed, that was the case of Samuel Doe when he took over. It's like, okay, you the military guy, just hold it and give it to us.
Yes.
People also say it happened in the case of Charles Taylor.
Yes.
That, hey, this guy, you do the dirty job.
Yes.
And then we come in.
Charles Taylor said it. So it's not a rumor. Charles Taylor, during his trial in The Hague, he mentioned that. So he was giving money to do the dirty work. And once he got places, he was like, no, this is my thing now. What are you doing? Am I going to work here for you guys? No, I'm not doing it. So it has never worked. We can say that now, that based on everything that we've seen, Dennis, And that's what the shows like this is important. We're here to just, share information and teach our audience and teach people.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at plan B choice, it does not work. What is our proof? We've just given you three great examples of why plan B choices have never worked. These accidental presidents, they're his accidency, they will stay there for a good while.
Even if you go back, we learned that was the situation with President Barkley and Tubman. And say,
Yes.
well, I can,
Yes. Yes.
I can take this. Let me get this for Kifamo kids.
Yes. Dennis, you're very good. Yes, that was the case. And Barkley tried to come back, and Barkley tried to come back, and Barkley was good. Barkley tried to come back for his old job. He wasn't satisfied anymore with Tubman, and he won't get it back. Tubman said, "I'm not giving this back." Okay, we're going to go to election. They went to election, and the incumbent is always in that position, especially in African politics. Incumbents are in that position where they have the advantage. They have the largesse. They have, all the money and resources that they can deploy. They have the people to work for them. They have the security apparatus. So it's usually incumbents that have the advantage in these situations.
Right. And even Clarence Simpson, who Barkley was afraid of,
right?
You two, I'm going to get rid of you.
Right.
Interesting. Things keep happening, but who are going to learn from past mistakes?
Yes. So this is a map of Africa. The Senegal is located right there. If you look at that map, Senegal is located around the tip of Africa. It's like a bulge right there around Mauritania. So Mauritania is located, that whole orange square right there is Mauritania. So Mauritania is to the north of Senegal. Mali in the green map, the green color map there next to Mauritania is Mali. So Mali is to the east. Guinea and Guinea-Bissau are to the south of Senegal. And then, of course, you have the Atlantic Ocean to the west. So this is a beautiful country. It's a gateway to Africa along the Atlantic coast. And if you're looking at the individual map of Senegal, this is what it is. It's an enormous country. We'll get to the population of Senegal. It's 18 million people. So it's a lot of people in Senegal. It's a peaceful democracy. It's one of the most peaceful democracies in Africa. My cousin was there recently. I think he's currently still there, and he speaks a lot about it. It's very peaceful. And they have a lot of things. They do a lot of things that we don't do, such as, they don't have these vehicles that are overcrowded. So, in the passenger seat, you have the passenger seat is, for example, reserved for one seat, the driver and the passenger. You don't have, this kind of, bad roads, in Senegal.
And just because we are on the map there, what is Senegal's relationship with Gambia? I mean, see where Gambia is.
Yeah, tiny little Gambia. So Gambia is there. So at some point, Gambia, you could say, almost cut Senegal into two, almost. So it's right there in the middle. So Gambia was colonized by the British, and Senegal was colonized by the French. And so Gambia gained independence, a different country now, right? So at some point, Senegal and Gambia merged. They formed a confederation called the Senegambia Confederation. This was after the 1981 coup by Kiku Samba Sagnan. Kiku Samba Sagnan was a guy who, in contemporary times, followed Charles Taylor back to Liberia. And he was known as Dr. Manning. He was a rebel. He's been a rebel all his life, from his youth to the time he died. He was a rebel. And Kiku Samba Sagnan went to Libya and got help from Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, came back and tried to overthrow President Dawda Jawara of Senegal. That coup was put down by forces, military forces from Senegal in 1981. And so Senegal, Gambia has gotten a lot of support from Senegal. So in many ways, Senegal has maintained Gambia's stability. But after that, Senegal decided that both countries should merge into a federation, a federal system of government. But they were in moving towards that. They wanted some kind of a confederation as a progressive step towards a full federation. At some point, the Senegalese weren't the Gambians didn't want to go along with that, and so the confederation disintegrated. I want to speak about one federation that is Mali and Senegal in the 1950s, the late 1950s. Mali and Senegal formed the Mali Federation. Current day Mali was called French Sudan. French Sudan was part of the French colonial empire. In I believe 1958, the charismatic leader of Mali, Modibo Keita, and Leopold Sédar Senghor of Senegal decided to form a federation. And this federation was just one super state with its headquarters either in Bamako, Mali, or Dakar, Senegal. So they all agreed to that. They would have had a unified parliament. They would have had a unified presidency. And so when this decision was made in the late 1950s, they put all the mechanism in place. The French opposed this. And when the French opposed this, from everything that I gather, they worked towards disintegrating that federation. And so the federation disintegrated in August of 1960, and both countries, it's a long, it's a long history. It's way longer than that. I'm just giving an abbreviated version here. So when that disintegrated in August of 1960, both countries then declared independence. What they did when they formed that federation, Dennis, was they would take a group of Senegalese from Senegal, take them to Mali, resettle them in Mali. They would take people from French Sudan, current day Mali, resettle them in Senegal. So right now, when you go to Mali or Senegal, you have people who are from Senegal. Mm-hmm. They're Malians. Their origins, their grandfathers are from Senegal. So what they were trying to do, people like Modibo Keita was trying to do, they believe that we don't need all these differences. We don't need separation. We just need a federation of African states, more in line with Kwame Nkrumah and others.
And the colonial masters don't like that.
And the colonial masters don't like that. They've never liked that. They didn't like that yesterday. They don't like it today. In terms of geography, Senegal is located on the westernmost bulge of Africa, the westernmost coast. That spot is like a bulge into the Atlantic Ocean. Mauritania to the north, Mali is to the east, Guinea and Guinea-Bissau to the south of Senegal. In terms of demography, in terms of population, 18 million people as of 2024. Wolof, the Wolof ethnic group at 39% constitute 39% of the population. You have the Fulani, who also a significant number of the population, 27%. The Seri ethnic group, the current presidents of Seri, 16% of that of the population. The Mandinka people are about 5%. You have the Jola, and the Soninke and others, right? So that's the composition, the ethnic composition of Senegal. Religiously, you have Muslims constitute 89%. So it's a large Muslim country. Christianity is 10%, and traditionalists 1%. The thing about that is that they have a system where, this country has enormous religious tolerance. So there's no religious conflict. You've had the first president of Senegal was a Catholic. I think he was Catholic or Protestant, but he was a Christian nevertheless. So and they work well together. Both Christians and Muslims, Christian holidays, Muslim holidays. It doesn't matter. It's when you go back to Liberia now, this is where we have all these problems. No, we're not a Muslim nation. We're not this and that and the other. But here in Senegal, where in fact there are Liberians who have lived in Senegal since the beginning of the Civil War, and they're still there. And so the thing about it is now can we learn from these people? Can we learn from countries like Senegal? Absolute religious tolerance, Everybody is treated equally. And so this is why it's important for us to bring this kind of information to, our audience. And the World Cup, in commemoration of Senegal's participation in the World Cup, Senegal is participating in this year's World Cup in North America. It has a successful soccer history. Senegal has won the African Cup of Nations, I think, once or twice. This may be the third time that they're trying to rob. This is I think the cup in their win in Morocco may be their second or third. That is still under appeal because recently, it was awarded to Morocco, even though they didn't want on the field of play. And then the Senegalese Soccer Federation has appealed that decision. And the next slide, you see the Senegalese soccer team. The most prominent face you see here is Mane. Sadio Mane is a very good player. He's in the middle there. And, this team is always underestimated, and they've always come through. And pre-independence Senegal was part of the French colonial empire. It formed a federation with French Sudan and in January of 1959. That federation was known as the Mali Federation. So current day Mali, when the French took over, was known as the French Sudan, otherwise known as Western Sudan. Sometimes in Liberia, people misstate the Sudan, because I heard someone in one of the YouTube videos said our people are from the Sudan. The person said that hey, we Grebo people, our people are from the Sudan, and they refer to the Sudan in East Africa. That is not the Sudan that I believe that person meant to talk about. The person meant to refer to Western Sudan, which is Mali now. So when the French took over Mali, the Mali Empire, the former Mali Empire was gone. So now the French took over. Now it was French Sudan. This French Sudan formed a coalition, a federation with the Republic of Senegal in 1959. And the federation became known as the Mali Federation. It was reported that Modibo Keita was supposed to be the president of the Mali Federation. So Mali would have, the presidency would have, the president would have been a Malian. I think it would have been a rotational presidency, something along those lines. But the head of the parliament would have been a Senegalese, and they would have had a joint armed forces, and everything was supposed to be integrated. There was supposed to be no frontiers, no borders, and stuff like that. So it was one country. So they tried this experiment for a year. It didn't work because the colonial master was not in favor of this, and the whole plan failed. When it failed, both countries went back. It was a bitter dispute. It was very bitter. When it failed, it went back. Modibo Keita was not happy about this. Later on, their disputes were, resolved. They had a series of meetings. They became friends again. But Modibo Keita was still very unhappy about the failure of the Mali Federation. This officially happened August 20 of 1960. In post-independence, Senegal was a one-party state. Senghor ruled Senegal from 1960 to 1981. He transferred power to Abdou Diouf. Abdou Diouf became president in 1981. And in 1981, and Senegal has been, democracy for a long time. So in 1981, Abdou Diouf lifted some of the restrictions, and Senegal became a multi-party democracy. In the year 2000, Abdou Diouf was defeated by Abdoulaye Wade. Dr. Abdoulaye Wade. Abdoulaye Wade became president in 2000. That was a hotly contested election. And for the first time, there was peaceful transfer of power from the ruling party to the opposition party. And Abdou Diouf was defeated by Abdoulaye Wade, who was head of the Senegalese Socialist Party. So Senegal has a long tradition of peaceful transfer. Again, this tradition goes back to 1981. There was transfer from, uh, you know, Senghor to Abdou Diouf. However, that wasn't true in election. He inherited that position. But in the year 2000, Abdou Diouf himself was defeated by Abdoulaye Wade. And ever since then, there has been this peaceful transfer of power, similar to what we have in Liberia in the last decades or so. So Liberia has seen, to
Two
the
decades.
credit of Liberian democracy, Liberia has seen a succession of peaceful transfer of power. Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf left, and George Weah won the election. Boakai, there was a peaceful transfer to the CDC party. George Weah lost the other year, and there was a peaceful transfer of power. This is good for democracy. This is not everything in democracy. Democracy is not just holding elections or all these different things of that nature, but at least this is one of the key pillars of democracy. There must be an acceptance by the losing candidate that these people have spoken. And so they have to now take the back seat and allow the winner to continue running the affairs of the state. That is happening in Senegal. It's happening in Liberia. To Liberia's credit, this is something that we can say is one of the good aspects of Liberian democracy.
And that takes us to Fai and Songo.
Yeah, and Fai and Sonko. So Basiru Jomai Fai was the passive candidate who beat the ruling party candidate, and the party leader is Usman Sonko. These guys were friends. Their friendship was forged in their common understanding of the needs of the Senegalese people. And what made their split so how do you say? I mean, their split is so concerning. What makes it so concerning is the fact that they're relatively young people, and so you say that the older generation needs to give way for the young people to take over. Well, in Senegal, you have the young people who've taken over the leadership, but they're not getting along. They didn't get along. So then where do we go from here? As you can see, after the election, when Macky Sall is the guy there in the suit and tie, when Macky Sall's party was defeated, this is part of the turnover process, as you can see. And this picture is telling. I included this for a reason. If you look at them, you look at Macky Sall is looking back. He's looking back at these young people now, as if to say, the country is in your hands now.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. And the young guy to his immediate right is Basiru Jomai Fai. And Fai looks timid. He looks scared right there. The guy behind him is Usman Sonko. And where is Usman Sonko looking? He knows he's not going to be the president now, but it looks like he's looking way in the future.
Yeah.
I think he's looking at his own future. He's looking at the future.
Right.
He's looking at something really far. He's not even concerned about Macky Sall in this photo. He's not even looking at his friend Basiru Jomai Fai in this photo. Dennis, if you analyze this photo, this would have been the beginning of the friction. Someone can read this. You can read into this and say, this couple, this cohabitation is not going to work. Mm-hmm. One person is looking in the future, another looks timid and is telling of the criticism that Usman Sonko launched at lobby at Basiru Jomai Fai, because he constantly criticized him for not taking on the corrupt politician. He constantly criticized him for trying to work a deal with the IMF to get IMF loans and stuff like that. But Usman Sonko was having none of that. In fact, the debt that Macky Sall accumulated, Usman Sonko is saying that, Senegal should reject that debt. Senegal is not to be held liable for those debts, those IMF loans and stuff like that. Whereas Basiru Jomai Faye is saying, some would say in a pragmatic way, well, we have to negotiate. We have to be responsible enough to negotiate with the IMF. But Usman Sonko is saying no. I mean, where is the money? That is the question. And that is the question that Senegalese are asking. Where is the money? What happened to it? And Usman Sonko's insistence was that there should be a full-fledged investigation into allegations of corruption against the previous administration. And Basiru Jomai Faye was dragging his feet.
Right. And you see Faye in that picture is like he's looking at somebody. It's like he's hearing voices.
Right.
Somebody is talking in his ear.
Right.
And I mean, he looks bad now, but if you come to look at it, right, where there's militancy, someone in power say, hey, let's reject the IMF, let's reject this. It's like you are really not looking, because it's easy to talk these things when you are not, in the driver's seat.
You're talking about Usman Sonko, not Faye. You're talking about Usman Sonko, right?
Yeah. Sonko now, who is the just like the Laurent Gbagbo. We got to do this. We got to move. Right. And then the younger Faye now is saying, wait a minute, let's take time. Let's be responsible. Let's pay the debt. Let's do this. So, I mean, and we'll get to what really the crux of their disagreement. Right now, Faye is looking like he's the bad guy.
Yes.
But does he have a point?
I mean, if pragmatism is what you're looking at, he has a point. But largely, the Senegalese people don't agree with him, and that's what matters. So Usman Sonko is saying, where is the money? There needs to be an investigation of the previous administration. That hasn't even happened, Dennis. Where is the money that Macky Sall and his people stole? That's what Usman Sonko is asking. And then meanwhile, Macky Sall is running around, wants to be Secretary General of the United Nations. If this man sit on the United Nations as Secretary General, it's over. It's over. Somebody's trying to push him, some country, not his own country, is trying to push him to become Secretary General of the United Nations. And meanwhile, Usman Sonko is saying, well, there needs to be an investigation of the former leadership. What happened to the millions? Where is it? It looks like there was no report or accountability, anything that happened. So Usman Sonko is not looking at any tangible results from the money that the IMF is claiming that Senegal owes. So that is at the crux of their disagreement. The fact that Basiru Jomai Faye is dragging his feet on this issue angers Usman Sonko and Usman Sonko's supporters. And so him reacting that he's very relieved. Usually when people are fired, like in Liberia and other places, when people are fired from these important positions, like, oh my God, I'm dying. They're dying already. They're done. That's their obituary. This is the end of their political life, right? But Usman Sonko said he was relieved. And 2 days later, he makes a triumphant return to Parliament, to the National Assembly, where he's overwhelmingly elected Speaker of the National Assembly. So it's game on. The battle is on. It's not over because Usman Sonko is a tactician. Usman Sonko is a brilliant politician. He already knows what's going on. He knows what to do. He's telegraphing for 2029. So all of this now, the fight now for 2029 in Senegal begins now. They're fighting for the hearts and soul of the Senegalese population and Senegalese voters. So it is on now. So Dennis, is very interesting to see what Basiru Jomai Faye as the president of what he's going to do. We talk about incumbency earlier on. When you talk about incumbents have money, they have power, they have the security forces to their disposal. So is Basiru Jomai Faye at some point, those things in his arsenal, those things in his toolbox, is he going to unleash these things that he has in his toolbox against his friend and mentor? It'll be very interesting to see what's going to happen in the next 2 years. Because if Bassirou Diomaye Faye just sits around and wait for 2029 to happen, he is going to be defeated. So is he going to allow that to happen? You said people are talking this. Yes, I'm sure people are talking about him watching his back, because if Usman Sonko is allowed to come back to, to run and defeat him, that is trouble for him. That's trouble for Macky Sall. Macky Sall is very close to the French elite, the French establishment, the colonial, the ex-colonial regime, the French government and stuff like that. So it is still problematic for Usman Sonko, because these people, they're going to build these coalitions around him. But one thing that they should not forget is Usman Sonko is still enormously popular. I keep going back to that. So the thing about all of this is Bassirou Diomaye Faye has to be extremely careful, because if he's not, I know that he has a lot in his toolbox, and if he's not careful, 2029 election will be violent, will be a very violent affair in Senegal, because the people are ready to ride with Usman Sonko. From everything that I've seen, from everything that I've heard so far, there's no indication that Usman Sonko has been abandoned by the Senegalese people. So this is where the conundrum is for Bassirou Diomaye Faye at this time. He's thinking, he's mapping out things himself. What is he going to do? Is he going to now resurrect, the things that were held against Usman Sonko? Lastly, Dennis, you know what Usman Sonko did? One thing he did before he was dismissed as prime minister is that there were charges against him in 2023 when he was convicted of corrupting a minor. He was convicted of, making derogatory remarks against the Senegalese information minister. What the Senegalese parliament did shortly before he was fired was that they were able to reinstate his eligibility to run, to essentially run as president. So there's nothing against him now, according to Senegalese laws, that can hold him from not contesting the presidency in 2029.
And this thing about not investigating leaders for past leaders for corruption, we've also watched that movie in Liberia.
Yes.
But we're going to leave that alone and go to this guy.
Right.
Who is Usman Sonko?
Who is Usman Sonko? Usman Sonko is a Senegalese politician and current president of the National Assembly. When they talk about president of the National Assembly in French-speaking countries like Senegal and other countries, the president of the National Assembly is the Speaker of the National Assembly. Think of this person as the Speaker, the same position as the Speaker of the Liberian legislature. He was born in Thiès in 1974. This is in Senegal. He is the founder of PASTEF, along with Diomaye Faye. PASTEF is a leader of PASTEF. PASTEF is a Pan-Africanist party, Pan-Africanist and socialist-oriented political party. Bassirou Diomaye Faye, on the other hand, Bassirou Diomaye Faye is the current president of Senegal. He was born in Senegal in 1980. He's from the minority Syrian ethnic group. He's the co-founder of PASTEF. Both men, again, were public servants. They were tax agents, so they work as, tax agents. So they know something about money. They know something about, they should know something about fiscal management.
Right.
But it looks
where
like
the country money is.
Where the country money is and where it's going. They should know that they know something about that. And Usman Sonko, more than Bassirou Diomaye Faye, knows a lot about, fiscal management. He talks fiscal management. He talks about, the independence of Senegal. Senegal should be a country that's independent than it is. It shouldn't be subservient to foreign influences. Senegal should have, should respond to the needs of its citizens, creating jobs and opportunities for Senegalese. That's what Usman Sonko is talking about. The election of 2024, this was a monumental election. Young people came out in droves to elect this young president to office. In March of 2024, Jamai Faye was elected president of Senegal thanks to the support of his longtime friend and political mentor, Ousmane Sonko. Faye defeated the ruling party candidate Amadou Ba and 17 other political candidates. Of the 7 million votes cast, Pastor won 54% of the vote, as I mentioned earlier. This wouldn't have happened if Ousmane Sonko didn't campaign for Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Ousmane Sonko, whenever there were doubts about this guy whom we don't know, according to the Senegalese voters, we don't know him. Who is he? We want Ousmane Sonko. Ousmane Sonko is our man. He's our candidate. Ousmane Sonko went around the country to put the Senegalese voters at ease, to let them know that he is Diomaye Faye. Diomaye Faye is Ousmane Sonko. Diomaye Moye Sonko. Sonko Moye Diomaye. It's the same in Wolof. That is the campaign slogan that they took to the Senegalese people, and the Senegalese people bought into this, overwhelmingly defeating the ruling party in the first round. They didn't go to the second round. This was in the first round. This was amazing, and it was a youth-driven movement. PASTEF is still a youth-driven movement, and other people, women, everywhere, minorities, people from all corners of Senegal flocked to this party to make sure that their promises that was put out to the Senegalese people, that it was implemented. And this is the reason why Ousmane Sonko, after the election, he didn't forget those election promises. He said they must be implemented. It's what he's saying, that we have to go in a different direction. For 60 years, Senegal has been, this country that's, largely subservient perhaps to France. We have French military bases here. What are they doing? We need to close them down. Those were campaign promises. And once they got into office, Ousmane Sonko made sure that happened. So currently, French bases in Senegal are closed, and they were closed, right after the election. Right after the election, something else that he did was that he identified Senegal with the Alliance of Sahel states, these three countries, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. He allied Senegal with those countries. So PASTEF, in its political ideology, is a Pan-Africanist movement. And Ousmane Sonko wanted to run Senegal as a country that identified itself with the Pan-Africanist struggle.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Roundtable Africa, and we're discussing Senegal, where we have two young leaders. So it's about promise, it's about power, and breakup. In Shrek, Eddie Murphy says celebrity marriages don't last. So we're not surprised about this celebrity marriage. Normally, when people are coming to power, they say, oh, just hold it. And we're going to be leading from behind. We're going to be ruling the country from behind. Most of the time, doesn't work. Let's talk about the political party. These two.
So this young political party came on the Senegalese scene about a dozen years ago. I believe they participated in the 2014 or 2016 Senegalese election. This was Ousmane Sonko's first time running in Senegal. What does PASTEF stand for? PASTEF stands for African Patriots of Senegal for Work, Ethics, and Fraternity, or Patriotes Africains de Sénégal pour le travail, éthique et la fraternité. That is it, PASTEF. So ideologically, PASTEF is a left-wing Pan-Africanist political movement. So it's about Pan-Africanism. As you can see, at the core of this party, it's about Pan-Africanism. And this is what is missing, Dennis. Somebody like us, we adore, you can see from what I always espouse on this platform. It's about Pan-Africanism. My ideology is about Pan-Africanism. The Africans should unite. I don't believe in all these different, countries and all these different places. You have small Gambia sitting out there, and they are a country of their own. You have small Guinea-Bissau sitting out there, And look, what's happening now in South Africa, something we're going to talk about in a subsequent show, Dennis. Look at the shameful thing, the shameful charade that is happening in South Africa. I mean, what is going on with us? So
Yeah.
you have a country that was liberated by the African people is now setting boundaries for who can enter their country. So they don't want black people no more. So in the ideology, in the Pan-Africanist perspective, this is not supposed to happen. We're all Africans. So that solidarity must exist. And it's that spirit of African solidarity that Usman Sonko is carrying across the Senegalese nation. PASTEF is a so democratic socialist, and for democratic socialism and social conservatism, state intervention in the economy to create wealth, reduce poverty, create jobs, adhere to traditional religious values, right? This is great. How many times, Dennis, do you see a political party in Liberia that espouse any kind of ideology? So for example, what is the idea? Do you know the ideology of the CDC?
No, not
What
Unity Party either.
what is the ideology of the Unity Party?
I
Nobody
don't.
nobody knows, right? We just want to win. We want to win and occupy the white the
And then
the executive.
we build rules and we build the buildings.
Right.
That's all.
That's governance. That's governance. But what is your ideology? So your ideology to me is different from your governance. Your ideology should inform your direction. What is your direction? And because you have a lot of directionless parties in Liberia, this is why nothing gets done. And Pastor is saying, we believe in these things. We believe in anti-corruption. And when they put this platform out here, they're not just saying these things. It's not just a battle cry. Dennis, I followed this election in Senegal closely, um, you know, for a while. Not a lot of time, but for a while I followed that election. I mean, how many battle cries? I was trying to, listen, watch for battle cries and stuff like that. Like your party leader is talking, and if you're supposed to address your supporters for 1 hour, battle cries take 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Battle cries take 50 minutes. Battle cries take 90% of the time. So what are you going to communicate? So you now have political leaders in Liberia who hide behind battle cries, and they don't say anything to their people. I'm serious. This is true. You have people who are not able to communicate to the Liberian people. They sit there and hide behind battle cries because they can't put anything out there that's tangible to the Liberian people. Battle cries. It's all battle cries. I mean, look, in Senegal, they actually went out there. There were debates. They had presidential debates and all. Actually went out there and specifically talk about the things that they believe in. And in the case of PASTEF, they believe in this level of democratic socialism and social conservatism. So they're still socially conservative. What does that mean? In Senegal right now, they still believe, in restrictions in terms of, you know, marriage, for example. The Senegalese society still believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. I'm just telling you, this is what they believe. These kind of social conservative issues still persist within the Senegalese society. The Senegalese pastor believe that the state must intervene in the economy. How does the state intervene in the economy? The state intervenes in the economy by creating jobs, by putting money into public service, by putting money into social services, and all these different things that come with job creation. Pastor believes that. And so when they won the election, Usman Sonko, still the person that he is still propagated those beliefs, those ideologies of PASTEF. So it wasn't just on paper. It was something, and it is something that he still believes in. And so, again, another reason for the friction, it looked like Basiru Jomai Faye, to Sonko at least, didn't actually adhere to the ideology of PASTEF.
And that's why he was fired. Let me play the video of the news about the firing.
On the 22nd of May 2026, Senegal's president dismissed Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko through a public announcement read by his aide. Most people thought that was the end of him.
The President of the Republic, His Excellency Bassirou Diomaye Faye, has terminated the appointment of Ousmane Sonko as Prime Minister.
1 second. Oh.
4 days later, Sonko walked back into parliament and was elected Speaker of the National Assembly. The man removed from government now controls the legislature itself. And this is not the first time Senegal's establishment tried to stop him. They fired him from the tax office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On the 22nd of May 2026, Senegal's president dismissed Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko through a public announcement read by his aide. Most people thought that was the end of him.
The President of the Republic, His Excellency Bassirou Diomaye Faye, has terminated the appointment of...
On the 22nd of May 2026, Senegal's president dismissed Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko through a public announcement read by his aide. Most people thought that was the end of him.
The President of the Republic, His Excellency Bassirou Diomaye Faye, has terminated the appointment of Ousmane Sonko as Prime Minister.
4 days later, Sonko walked back into parliament and was elected Speaker of the National Assembly. The man removed from government now controls the legislature itself. And this is not the first time Senegal's establishment tried to stop him. They fired him from the tax office. He exposed an oil scandal linked to the president's family. They tried to block him from the presidency. His closest ally won the election instead. They jailed him. He came back as prime minister. They fired him again. Now he controls parliament. But this story is bigger than one man. Because once Ousmane Sonko finally got close to power, something unexpected happened. The revolutionary movement that promised to destroy Senegal's political system began turning on its.
Right?
Yes.
So, we'll take a short break, Mr. We'll take a short break.
Okay.
And during the short break, we'll play a song.
For me can't everything you're giving to school. For me can't everything you're giving to school. Kid my can't everything you're giving to school. Jenny my can't everything you're giving to school. Say bomb can't everything you're giving to school. Jenny my can't everything you're giving to school. We have been on education important. But there's not education value. A good education is good. I'm all of who means you know what's happening to school. A good education is good. So I know that education can pay. I know that education is value. So this is number one man told me to send my daughter to school. They men told me to send my daughter to school. You know.
Indeed, education is good, and all the thing Mr. Sherif explaining here because he's educated.
And speaking of education, I continue to say that, sometimes it doesn't matter the environment that you're in. That environment has to provide you the basic the basic foundation. That is the requirement of that environment in that community. And because you know, Kalipo, Kawikin, the school there, Wapler Institute, Wapler Memorial Institute, created that foundation for us. It was a starting point. So the rest really is up to you
Yeah.
to see what you can make of yourself. You don't say, well, my school was bad, my teacher was bad, and all these different things. At the end of the day, you're going to run out of excuses. So you take what is given you and run with that and see what you can do with that. So that's what I believe in. But the society has to give you that basic foundation.
Thank you.
Um, you know,
And so let's talk about governance. Sonko, how is he doing?
Yeah, so Sonko is ideologically he's at the left, the left wing of Senegalese politics. The first manifestation of that is he expressed solidarity with the AES states. Contrast that with Macky Sall, who immediately stated that the coup in Niger has to be opposed, has to be reversed. That Senegal was committed to sending troops to the Sahel to fight the military regime in Niger. So had that happened and that reversal happened, maybe the next step would have been Burkina Faso, and then the next step would have been Mali. Contrast that again, come back to Sonko. Sonko doesn't believe that, the Sahel states were wrong for doing what they did. So he expressed solidarity with them. He, as I mentioned earlier, criticized the leadership in Guinea-Bissau, the former president of Guinea-Bissau, who staged a military coup against himself, who thwarted, Guinea-Bissau's democracy. Unfortunately, in a cynical kind of way, invited the military back into politics when it appears that he was losing the election. And he invited the military back and fled to Dakar. And so Sonko, while Bashir Jamal Faye was in favor of granting asylum, Sonko opposed asylum to Mbalo, and Mbalo left 2 days later. Again, Sonko practically called for the closure of French bases, French military installations in Senegal, and that happened. So these are the things that he has done. He has also called for an investigation of the former president. That was on the table when he was prime minister. I'm sure he's going to, in some way, shape, or form, pursue that kind of agenda in Parliament. So one of the things I mentioned earlier that Sonko has been able to do, he's a survivor as well. Not only a tactician, but he's a survivor. You heard in that video clip where he was fired several times from several jobs, right? Every time he's fired, he reemerges. And that's what he's been able to do. He has been able to reemerge every time, the odds are against him. This is a man who was, a tax officer, was fired from there, put in jail, came back. He was mayor in Casamance. He's, from the Casamance region. He was mayor there. At some point when he decided to run for president, he was arrested on what many believe were trumped-up charges. He was incarcerated, not allowed to run for election. He got out of all of those. And during the protest, Dennis, between 2021 and 2023, a lot of Senegalese protesters died because Macky Sall sent the army out to just kill people. And a lot of Senegalese died. And, Dennis, sometimes, unfortunately, dictators don't just go down like that. A dictator has to be confronted. In Africa, unfortunately, people will die. And it's unfortunate. And this is why it's important to hold those people accountable for their atrocities. And Sonko believed that Macky Sall shouldn't just go free just like that because people died. And there has been no investigation of that. And that is something that was contentious when he was prime minister. And that, Bassirou Diomaye Faye has not been able to pursue any of those things. He has swept a lot of things under the rug, and is cause for some of the causes for their friction.
And why is that? Why is he doing that?
When you are in leadership, so first of all, was he really committed to the ideology of PASTEF, or did he just use PASTEF as a convenient, as a conduit to get to where he was supposed to get? So keep in mind, this is somebody who was never thinking about the presidency. He was never thinking that he was going to be the president. He's very accidental to begin with. And once there, he has subjugated himself to the powers, the colonial powers out there. You remember when he came to Washington, D.C., his speech to Mr. Trump. I mean, he gave a speech where he's saying that, hey, we want to invite you, Mr. President, to come to. We have golf courses. We have golf course that you can come to, So his speech was not really impressive, right? I mean,
he was talking about make America great.
Yes, you understand. So that tells you that, as an accidental president, he really is still learning. I mean, mind you, he's still learning on the job. The picture that we put up of the three of them, he is the one in that picture of the three that looks very timid and unsure. And he's still in that stage. I think it was a shock for him to be elected this young in this kind of important position. This is somebody from a tax office who's never been a governor. He's never been a mayor. That Ousmane Sonko has been a mayor. He's never been any of that. A young man who just got catapulted into this position of significance on the African continent, on the global stage, to be thrust on the global stage at this time, at this age, and unprepared. I think he's unprepared. He was unprepared.
And sometimes that happens too, that our desire to get the incumbent out is like, whoever, whatever.
Yes. Our desire to get the incumbents out, we were bargaining for anybody. We're bargaining for anything, right? We're bargaining for anybody. Just go there. When you get there, we're going to fix it.
Yeah, we'll teach you.
We'll teach you how to do it. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work. In this case, there's problem already.
Let's emphasize some of their disagreements.
Yes. Their disagreement is on, what is their disagreement on the anti-corruption issue? At least, publicly, what has been put out there publicly? Anti-corruption. Sonko wants an investigation of the previous government. The previous government mismanagement of the finances of Senegal. Sonko wants the IMF loan. He wants a different condition. He wants those abandoned. We need to abandon the loan. This debt issue. Debt management is part of their disagreement. Party allegiance. Sonko believes that FAD is drifting away from the party. He's not committed to the party ideology. Besides all of that, Dennis, I would tell you that one of the ones that people don't talk about much is the personality clash. They have different personalities. Sonko is fiery, and Fire is more meek. He'll go along. There are people like that. They will go along. Yeah. In my life, I have people who, when I talk tough, they're saying something different. Man, you're tough. We can be pragmatic, as if I'm not pragmatic, right? So you always have people like that. And so in the case of Fire and Sonko, Fire is one that, would like to go along, just want to go along. But Sonko is someone who would tell it like it is, say it like it is, do it like it is. And so those two personalities, it was only a matter of time. They weren't bound to stay together. So, there you have it. And then lastly, this sort of arrangement is very hard to work. Sonko was always in a really bad position. They say that the presidential chair, something the French people always say, I hear people say in French, they say the presidential seat is not a bed, right? The presidential seat is only for one person, you know. So it's not like a bed where you can have a partner sitting on the other side, right? On the other side of the bed. Like, okay, come sit by me. It doesn't work that way. It's only for one person. It's one person at a time.
It's like a casket. Not a bed.
I don't know if that's a good analogy, but I bet it's a better analogy. Like, okay, presidential seat is for one person. And at this time, the Senegalese people, regardless of how we look at it, elected Bassirou Diomaye Faye to be their leader. And this is why Abdoulaye Wade said the other day, the former president, he said, look, you know, I understand what's going on, but, you know, Sonko just needs to shut up because it's only for one person. This is a seat for one person. The Senegalese people elected Faye at this time, and he is the president. So talk about people talking in his ears. Guys like Abdoulaye Wade are talking in his ears. Macky Sall, former president, is probably talking in his ears because you know what? He's bringing the old guards back. He's appointing them, giving them position in government. People that, you know, they were supposed to be investigating. Some of these people are finding their way back into government, and this is the problem. You know, so Pastef recently rejected all the positions that were offered them. They went into a discussion, and Pastef decided that they were not going to be part of this government. So they just formed a new government. You know, Pastef refused to participate. Look, if this is in Liberia, where people, everybody wants to be a director, everybody wants to be a minister, who's going to sit there as an opposition member to say, oh, I'm following my party? Nobody. All these people in Liberia after election, they want jobs. So they don't follow their party line. So I love what the Senegalese, you know, politicians and Pastef are doing. They are following their leader. They are bound by a certain ideology. We can't say the same in Liberia. We can't say the same. Yeah. And that is why, Dennis, Senegal is so important to us as a study. It's a very important study.
Very important indeed. And you believe or don't believe, please call 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. Let's discuss Senegal. And what parallels can you draw with Liberia, our own country? And so while we wait for our callers to call, we're going to re-emphasize that education is good, yeah?
Come can't every day I get into school. Come can't every day I get into school. Kid my can't every day I get into school. Lenny my can't every day I get into school. They bomb can't every day I get into school. Lenny my can't every day I get into school. We have been on education important, but there's no education value. A good education is good. I'm all of who means in our sending to school. A good education is good. So I know that education can pay. I know that education is value. So the number one man told me to send my daughter to school. They meant to me to send my daughter to school. You know that education is value. Mama told me to send my daughter to school. Mama told me to send my daughter to school. She also helped me to send my daughter.
Mr. Sherif told me to send my daughter to school. Education is good, yeah?
Yeah, so when you look at Liberia and Senegal, so the parallels are there. You have both are democracies. You know, Liberia is a democracy. Senegal is a democracy. Question is, what kind of democracy are we in Liberia? Is this, so at some point when you look into democracy, what is a good democracy and a bad democracy? Senegal, to me, I will argue that it's a better, stable democracy. It's a democracy that's on the right path, that has been on the right path since 1981. And we're still struggling with where Senegal is now. For example, when the Supreme Court decided to strike down Macky Sall's intention to postpone the election, that was a landmark decision by the Senegalese Supreme Court. Macky Sall wanted to have postponed the election, and the Supreme Court said no. And there were other decisions that the Supreme Court struck down on that he honored. So and another thing about Senegalese democracy is, you have enormous, press freedom. You have this sort of peaceful transfer, this, protests and stuff like that, and so when you look at Liberia, when the Supreme Court hands down a decision, what is the president doing? The president is saying, um, the understanding it, I don't understand it this way. When they go to ECOWAS court, Nancy Doe won in ECOWAS court. What did we do? Didn't give that woman her money. I mean, regardless of what it is, what you have against that person, it doesn't matter. We must learn to respect the rule of law. We talk about the rule of law, and nobody is respecting the rule of law. People have to leave Liberian courts. We leave the court. It's an indictment of the Liberian system. We leave our courts and go to ECOWAS, approach ECOWAS about individual issues in Liberia. And they go there, and the Liberian government, successive governments, whether it was Weah or Baka, have consistently lost in the ECOWAS court. They've not honored these decisions. They've not honored these decisions. They don't honor their own court decisions. They don't honor ECOWAS decision. What kind of democracy are we? We just talk about, your blueprint is, around election, you talk about the rule of law. Some of these parties even have this, their arrest agenda, the rule of law. I believe in the rule of law. They just go there and say these things, but they don't really believe in the rule of law. They only believe the rule of law when they apply to someone else. When they're prosecuting an opposition politician, then the rule of law applies to that opposition politician. When it comes to them and their own party, the rule of law doesn't apply. And this is the kind of democracy we have in Liberia. And Senegal is different in terms of what they do. And that's the reason why it's stable. That's, I would argue, one of the reasons why Liberians who've gone there since the Civil War have not returned. Because it's a good place to live.
Yeah.
They have a good, business atmosphere. Anytime you have a stable country, it's always good for business. Our economists on FOL will probably tell you this. Business thrive where there is peace and stability. Predictability is important in business. You don't want to go somewhere where you're thinking, well, what's going to happen tomorrow? Are the military people going to return? Is something going to happen? You don't want that in business. You want something that's stable, okay, that you can operate in. And a lot of Senegalese are operating in an atmosphere of peace, in an atmosphere of law and order. There has been some dark spots where, I mentioned between 2021 and 2023, where Macky Sall put the police out there to kill people. He did that. Dozens were killed during the protest for Ousmane Sonko. That needs to be investigated. Other atrocities, Macky Sall's government need to be investigated. So those are dark spots. Besides those, for the most part, Senegal has been an example of a good democracy in West Africa.
Thank you. And our next show, we want to talk about South Africa.
Yeah. South Africa is the epitome of, the sad story, the tragic, an African tragedy. It's really an African tragedy. Dennis, in the 70s, in the 60s, in the 50s or whatever, right? South Africa was an apartheid country, was an apartheid state. And then Nelson Mandela went to jail. It was still apartheid. It was still an apartheid state. Ruled by the European minority. Think about this. Europeans left their homeland in Europe and come and settle in Africa, take over the land of the African people, kill the African people, banish exiled most of the African people from their ancestral land, established themselves, established their government, and discriminated against the African people. And Nelson Mandela went to jail for this, for advocating for the African people. Nelson Mandela received a lot of help from African governments all around the country. You talk from Morocco to Liberia, to Ghana, to Kenya, to other places. From Gaddafi, give them a lot of money during their struggle. Nelson Mandela mentioned that the other time. He mentioned other African leaders, Modibo Keita, all these people, William V.S. Tubman, Sekou Touré, Torbert, one of my favorite Liberian presidents. Okay, they not only, they give the South African liberation movement money. South Africans came to Liberia, Dennis. They were educated in Liberian schools and whatnot. They went to Ghana and other places, were educated in schools in Ghana. Black South Africans went all over the continent. They were educated. They got education in those countries. Some of them built families in those countries. So Africa as a whole was able to ensure, one of the most successful stories on the African continent is that African leaders fought to end apartheid in South Africa. But here's the thing. That was white minority rule, white minority apartheid. We have apartheid still going on in South Africa. This is the black majority apartheid against other African people. This is condemnable. It must be condemned by everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. To me, the president of South Africa should be banned from going to other countries, from flying to other countries. There should be a travel ban against the President Ramaphosa of South Africa, that he must never enter other African countries as long as he's condoning violence against black people. Okay, all black people belong to the African continent. Dennis, think about this. Think about this. If you and I go to South Africa now, at the immigration checkpoint, it is very likely that a European will be asking for our passport. A European will be telling you whether or not you can enter that country. A European whose ancestors came from Europe, on our own continent. And this is what's happening. So the black South African are condoning what is going on. The apartheid that went on decades ago has now been reintroduced into South Africa under the black majority rule. So apartheid has never gone away. Apartheid just changed into a different form. So if you will now, this is called the new apartheid. This is what this is. So if you're writing a book, this will be called the new apartheid. Black on black violence. So when people talk about Donald Trump did this, Donald Trump did X, Y, and Z, but Mr. Trump can point to South Africa and say, look at your own South Africa. Look at what they're doing to you. What are we going to say about that? It is true. You got people with machetes and all these weapons of violence in the streets of South Africa, protesting against other Africans. So that will be our next discussion. We will be talking about South Africa.
Thank you. On that note, let me check. I don't think we have a caller yet. So let's wrap it up.
Thanks, Dennis. So the purpose of this was to briefly touch on a political, the collapse of a political collaboration. This was not the entire story of the Senegalese state. It wasn't meant for that. It was meant to discuss the end of a political collaboration. It is a sad chapter in Senegalese political history because what happened in 2024 was a revolution. And it was a democratic revolution. This is something that I love. It wasn't a revolution that was obtained at the barrel of the gun. If it were, people would be talking about, well, the Senegalese revolution of 2024, the president was overthrown, this people were put in jail and this and that and the other. That didn't happen. It wasn't that. It was people going to the ballot box to let their voices be heard. People voting with their feet at the ballot box to let their voices be heard. To let the voices of the disenfranchised majority heard. To let their voices be heard. So PASTEF came to power overwhelmingly on the promises of creating jobs and opportunities for the Senegalese masses. Came to power on the promises of a sovereign Senegal. The fact that those hopes were dashed because of the disintegration of the collaboration between the two powerful leaders of PASTEF was sad for me. But when I look beyond that, I look to see what is going on. I think Ousmane Sonko, as a tactician, knows exactly what he's doing. Ousmane Sonko was really in the wrong place after the election. I think the prime ministership, I listened to another Senegalese politician the other day. He a Senegalese, actually scholar, who suggested that Ousmane Sonko, to begin with, should have gone into parliament as the parliamentary speaker. That would have been the right thing for him to do. He suggested that the prime ministership was not something for him. He shouldn't have taken that job because he's appointed there. And he's always eyeing the presidency, sitting in the prime minister's office. He's always going to be eyeing the president's office. I mean, this was the job that was taken away from him. This was the position that was taken away from him through political maneuverings of Macky Sall. Had it not been for Macky Sall's political maneuvers and dirty work, Ousmane Sonko would have been the president of Senegal. But as people of faith, we believe that God does everything for a reason. So Ousmane Sonko, as a man of faith, should believe in that as well. And I do think that he believes in that. And everything happens for a reason. He's not president now, but he may be president. But Dennis, this is what I'm going to say to conclude. We are looking at, the story is not over. 2029 will be here before you know it. And I think that from now to 2028, middle of 2028, a lot of political maneuvering is going to happen. Bassirou Diomaye Faye is going to go to another school, and that is a school of political maneuver. He's going to talk to leaders around Africa who know how to work their way, who know how to do this kind of thing. He probably go talk to the president of Kenya, the president of Tanzania, probably go talk to Alassane Ouattara. Hey, how did you?
Yeah, you took it from my mouth. But
right?
what do you? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, what do you predict? Do you think that Faye will try to mend fences with Sonko and his party?
No. It's too late. He's not going to do that. Just what I explained to you is what he's going to do. He's going to go around the region. He's going to go to other places and talk to those leaders who are the masters of manipulation, who are masters of treachery, who are masters of deception. These deceptive dictators, he's going to go to some of them. He's going to talk to them. Hey, how do you do this? I have a situation on my hand. What do I do now? And they're going to tell him what to do. And whatever they're going to tell him will be dangerous for Senegalese democracy. So let's stay tuned, because this story is not over. It's a lot to it. Bassirou Diomaye Faye has a lot in his toolbox that he can unleash in 2028 against his political mentor, We've seen this. We've seen this picture before, where people, politicians are going against their political mentors. Because again, politics is thicker than blood.
Thank you, Mr. Sherif. We want to thank our viewers for always watching. Keep tuned. Today in Liberia, a lot of things going on. And before coming on the show, I got someone asking me, "Hey, Dennis, with all the things going on in Liberia, you talking about Senegal?" Oh, yes, we can talk about Senegal. We can talk about all of the above, and that's why we focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Our mission to make Liberia a more informed and enlightened society that attracts the world, and we'll do that by covering the entire Africa, the entire globe. Again, on behalf of all of us here at Focus on Liberia, we say thank you so much for watching. And tonight, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians," remembering that education is so good. Have a good
Yes.
night.
Thank you.
We are Liberians.